3 spine-chilling true last days of school, terrifying secrets revealed in cursed hallways. Emma's heart raced as the end of the school year loomed closer. In the dim corridors of Brookville Middle School, whispers of shadows brushed against her senses. Every turn, it felt as if something sinister lurked, hidden just out of sight. "The walls remember," a phrase carved into the crumbling walls sent shivers down her spine. What could that possibly mean? The last days of school weren't just about summer break for Emma, they felt like a countdown towards something darker. Her parents were lost in their own world of anxiety, shuffling bills across the kitchen table as shadows of arguments filled the house. Alone, Emma trudged through the hallways decorated with faded paint and flickering lights, the cheerful chatter of other students a stark contrast to her growing dread. She occasionally caught Jake's hopeful gaze, his optimism shining like a beacon in the darkness, but even he began to fade in the arms of uncertainty. As summer approached, the eeriness escalated. The worn-out hallways creaked underfoot, echoes of old secrets whispering like a chilling breeze. On one such day, Emma felt a chill crawl down her back. They stumbled onto a corridor that felt forgotten, where scrawled warnings clung to the peeling plaster like ghosts. "Not everyone leaves," it warned, and that sent her anxiety into a tailspin. "See Mon, Emma, just legends," Jake tried, a tremor in his voice betraying his easygoing nature. But something gnawed at them both. They learned about the beloved principal who vanished years ago, an unexplained mystery seeping through the walls of their school. Emma couldn't shoo away the feeling that the whispers of the past echoed in her own life, stitching her fears together like a tapestry of nightmares. As tension grew like a thick fog, Emma noticed something unsettling. Doors rattled when no one was there, whispers echoed in the empty gyms, and students vanished like autumn leaves. Teachers, once nurturing, now deflected questions with half-hearted smiles that concealed something darker. It was as if a curse hung heavy in the air, and Emma couldn't shake it off. The home life suffocated her, her parents' hushed tones mixing with the dreadful weight in the hallways. On a moonless night, courage laced with desperation overcame her fear. Armed with just a flashlight and Jake by her side, they vowed to unravel the school's mysteries. Each step echoed in the silence, their breaths ringing loud against the walls that seemed to pulse. Just as the weight of dread enveloped them, they stumbled upon a door cracked open, breathing secrets from centuries past. Inside, the storage room was like stepping into another time, a chilling space cluttered with dust and old memories. In that darkness, she spotted it, a scrap of paper glowing faintly, its message etched in jagged penmanship. "He's still here," it promised, waiting for his time to come. Emma's body tensed, cold fear running through her veins. The note clutched her like a vice, but before they could process the implications, a series of echoing footsteps vibrated through the hall behind them. The shadow loomed closer, a figure blurred in the obscurity of their fears. They froze, trapped between the urge to uncover the truth and the overwhelming panic demanding they run. What waited for them in the darkened hallway, hidden beyond the flickering light? The footsteps grew closer, the sound heavy with purpose. Cold sweat trickled down Emma's back as she clutched the note tighter, its threatening promise burrowing deeper into her mind. There was an electric tension in the air, a palpable dread that made her heart pound harder against her chest. "Run!" Jake whispered, though it was barely audible, like a mouse squeaking in the darkness. But Emma couldn't move. It was as if her feet were glued to the floor, locked in fear. The flickering light above them waned, shadows stretching longer, merging into a single mass that loomed with menace. Finally, as if an invisible string snapped, they bolted. Emma guided the beam of her flashlight down the corridor, desperately searching for an escape. Each step felt like a reckoning, the echo of their rapid breaths amplifying the stillness around them. The figure remained cloaked in shadow, unyielding. Emma could almost hear the heartbeat of the school, its foundation rumbling beneath the weight of secrets and despair. The haunting whispers intensified, rising like an ominous melody with every hurried step they took. "Where do we go?" Jake shouted, his voice breaking. Panic seeping into his once hopeful tone. "Back to the entrance." Emma screamed, Her pulse raging in her ears, they turned sharply, careening down a side hallway where photos of smiling students hung crookedly on the wall. But the usual faces seemed different now, their smiles rigid, their eyes hollow, watching with an unsettling awareness. Among them, Emma spotted the principal, no longer just an old photograph, a reminder of a past that felt too close. His gaze seemed alive, as though hinting at something buried underneath the surface. "Did you see that?" Emma gasped, pointing breathlessly as she pulled Jake toward the end of the hall. "I did. Let us just get out of here," he urged. As they neared the exit, a sudden metallic clang echoed behind them, followed by a low whisper that slithered through the air, creeping into their ears. "Help me!" The voice chilled Emma to the bone. It was desperate, pleading. What if someone is trapped? She wondered, her conscience clashing with her instincts. "Emma! We have to go," Jake urged again, tugging at her sleeve. But an overwhelming sense of duty washed over her. "What if they need us?" she murmured, torn between compassion and survival. The shadows seemed to sway, rising like a tide as the darkness within the school threatened to engulf them both. In that moment of hesitation, a flicker of light illuminated the hallway behind them. A momentary reprieve showed a figure shrouded in darkness, face obscured but unmistakably real. Emma's heart lurched. Was it a phantom, a remnant of the past, or something else entirely? "Emma!" Jake shouted, breaking her trance. "Let us go." Sprinting forward, they made it to the exit door, muscles aching from fear and urgency. As they burst into the night air, the silence engulfed them, stark compared to the turmoil they left behind. But that ghostly voice lingered in Emma's mind, a reminder of an unfinished story. "Did we just leave someone behind?" she whispered, haunted. Jake surveyed the stillness around them, eyes wide. "What if we go back?" Emma's pulse quickened. What horrors awaited them behind those doors? As the moon drifted above, an unsettling thought clawed at her. But what if the darkness follows us? A chill snaked through Emma's spine, anchoring her in place. Jake's breathing was heavy, too loud against the stillness of the night, punctuating the sense of dread that clung to them. Fear hung thick in the air, layered with uncertainty. "Let us just think this through," she said, voice trembling. "We don't know what's in there. What if that voice was real?" "But it could also be a trap," Jake countered, darting glances toward the closing entrance. The school loomed behind them, its dark windows like empty eyes staring vacantly back. What if we're the only ones who can help? Emma felt torn, a pendulum swaying between the drive to escape and the nagging pull of compassion. The whisper lingered in her ears, compelling her to act. "Fine." Jake's tone hardened, fingers clenching the flashlight. "But if we do this, we have to be smart. In and out. No detours. Understand?" Emma nodded, a slow acceptance scalding her heart as they turned back toward the gaping mouth of the school that had suddenly transformed into a sinister maw. As they stepped inside, the air thickened, wrapping around them like the fingers of the unseen. The hallway remained unchanged, yet somehow more malevolent than before, the shadows writhing in anticipation. "We should look for the source of the voice," she suggested, trepidation drumming in her chest. "Right, but keep your flashlight steady," Jake replied, already stepping forward. They crept down the corridor, the beam flickering as they passed the portraits, which now seemed to shift ever so slightly, as if reacting to their presence. Emma caught glimpses of the pupils tracking her every movement. Were they alive? The air sizzled like an electric current, prickling her skin with unease. "Help me," the voice echoed again, soft yet insistent, resonating with a deep sadness. "Over there." Emma pointed towards a doorway at the end of the hall, half open and inviting yet foreboding. A single, flickering light bulb buzzed overhead, casting erratic shadows that danced in errant patterns, forming grotesque figures against the walls. "Should we check it out?" Jake whispered, apprehension etched in his features. "Someone's in there," Emma asserted, conviction fueling her as she took a cautious step toward the door. As they approached, the whisper morphed into a low, unnatural groan, twisting the air around them. "Emma, please stop. We're coming," Jake yelled, though he hesitated, the sound echoing harshly through the otherwise quiet school. The door creaked open wider, revealing a small, dimly lit room stacked high with old desks and rotting floorboards that groaned under their weight. The scent of mildew curled around them, tangling with the briskness of fear. As they stepped inside, Jake shined the flashlight across the room. The beam caught on something, a figure curled tightly in the corner, shrouded by shadows. Emma's throat constricted at the sight, recognizing the familiar stance of a person crouched in despair. Help! It was a soft plea, the last fragment of coherence breaking through the veil of torment. "Who are you?" Emma whispered, heart hammering against her ribcage, but before the figure could respond, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through Emma, overwhelming her senses. "Jake! Stay close!" he shouted, his silhouette barely visible against the encroaching shadow, the whisper intermingled with the sound of sharp breaths, rising in intensity, enveloping them like a ghostly shroud. "You shouldn't have come back." Was it a warning or a threat? The darkness thickened, wrapping tighter, choking out their hope. Emma thought desperately of the entrance. Could they find their way back? But now uncertainty seeped into her bones. Did we just seal our fate? She gasped, realizing they might have crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. The figure in the corner shifted, fading further into shadow. With that, dread mounted its peak. "Run!" Jake urged, grasping Emma's arm fiercely. As they frantically searched for an escape, something followed them, whispering their names, a chilling reminder that the darkness wasn't just a place, it was coming to claim them. What if the voices were truly alive? What if the school itself was a trap, waiting, hungry? The sudden slam of the door behind them echoed ominously, bouncing off the faded walls like a gunshot in the silence. Emma's breath hitched, her heart racing as the darkness closed in, thick and suffocating. "Jake!" she gasped, panic clawing at her throat. "Right here," he replied, voice taut with alarm. "We need to find a light switch or something." They stumbled blindly, the flashlight's beam flickering wildly as if struggling against the impending shadows. Emma reached out, fingers grazing the cool, peeling wall, her pulse pounding in her ears loud enough to drown out the whispered threats swirling in the air. The whispers grew closer, more insistent. "You shouldn't have come back." They sounded like 100 voices, each layered with desperation and fury, wrapping around Emma like chains. "Don't listen to them," Jake shouted, but doubt seeped into Emma's mind. What if it was true? What if they were just unwitting pawns in a sinister game? "Over there." Her voice was barely a whisper as she pointed toward the vague outline of another doorway across the room, its outline blurred and shifting in the dim light. "Maybe we can find a way out." They dashed toward it, breathless with dread, but as they moved, the air thickened, becoming an oppressive weight pressing down on them. Every step felt like wading through syrup, the walls seeming to close in. The shadows whispered more fervently, feeding on their fear. "Don't run. Stay with us." The voices grew louder, a cacophony of despair that made Emma's skin crawl. Jake's flashlight flickered again, and in that brief moment of illumination, Emma saw a figure rush past the door, an indistinct form that left only a ripple of darkness behind. "Did you see that?" she cried, her voice raw. Jake nodded, eyes wide. "Yes." "What was that?" "I don't know. We need to move." Panic surged through them, and they pushed through the doorway, landing in what appeared to be an ancient library. The air smelled damp and rotted, and stacks of books lined the shelves like tombstones. A single, dusty window let in a thin light, barely illuminating the chaos. Jake's voice faltered, catching her attention as he pointed at a table in the center of the room. Papers were scattered about, some stained with age, others with dark smudges that looked like blood. "What is this?" Emma whispered, stepping closer, drawn to the sinister allure of the table. One sheet caught her eye, spelling out grim history, tales of disappearances linked to the school. The more she read, the colder she felt, as if the shadows themselves were wrestling to reclaim the knowledge. A chill crawled down her neck, and she turned in time to see the figure again, now clearer, a gaunt, hollow-eyed child peering from behind a stack of books. "Help me," they moaned, voice fragile yet hollow. "Jake! Back!" Emma shouted, instinctively stepping between him and the apparition. The child, though eerie, radiated a despair that twisted Emma's gut. But as she reached for Jake, the room began to pulse with energy, the walls vibrating. Books fell from their perches, the sound like cracks of thunder in the stillness. "Get out! Get out now!" The whispers screamed, a frenzied plea that matched the growing chaos around them. "Emma!" Jake shouted, fear palpable in his tone. The background noise morphed from whispers to shrieks, disembodied voices screaming their names, a sound that rose and twisted into something indescribably horrific. Emma's resolve wavered as she reached for the door again, heart racing, but as she turned back, the figure had morphed into a beast of shadow and despair, its eyes gleaming with malice. "Run!" she yelled, grasping Jake's arm tightly, and they dashed towards the only ray of light, but the creature lunged, and the room erupted in chaos, knocking them back into the shadows. "Don't let it take you." The voices echoed, now angry as the darkness encroached faster, pushing them into uncertainty. They stumbled deeper into the library, the unstable ground beneath them shifting as if the floor was alive. "Where do we go?" Jake gasped, dread sinking into his bones. "Don't look back," Emma whispered, dread pooling at the base of her mind, but as they turned to face the looming shadows, realization hit. Even if they fled, the darkness had already claimed them. "Is this it?" Emma thought. The door behind them burst open, revealing a blinding light just beyond, beckoning but also threatening to swallow them whole. What if this light is just another trap? Jake panted, eyes darting in confusion, but Emma felt the pull, an instinct pushing her forward. "Trust me," she cried, racing toward the blinding light, not knowing what lay ahead. As shadows clawed at their feet, an unholy roar erupted from behind, and Emma felt the heartbeat of the darkness quickening. What awaited them in the light? Was it salvation or something far worse? The air crackled, anticipation thick enough to cut. Would they escape, or would they remain trapped in the nightmare forever? Emma sprinted toward the light, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The soft glow intensified, wrapping her in warmth, a stark contrast to the cold dread that shrouded the room they had just fled. Beside her, Jake's breath came in rapid bursts, blending fear and desperation into one frantic sound. "Emma, wait!" he gasped, pulling at her arm. She hesitated, glancing back just in time to see the shadows roiling and writhing like a living thing, hungry and relentless. The creature was gaining on them, its shape more defined with each moment, long, spindly limbs and a maw that seemed to stretch beyond the realm of reason, dripping with darkness instead of saliva. "Keep moving," she urged, adrenaline fueling their flight. The light was so close, yet the oppressive darkness loomed behind, pushing them both toward a potential end. As they neared the threshold, the warmth beckoned, but doubt crept in. What if it's a trap? Jake's voice cracked, uncertainty flooding his eyes. Emma turned back to face him, eyes wide. "We can't think about that. We'll never know unless we try." With a final push, they dove through the light, colliding onto a cold stone floor. It felt different, not the warm embrace they had hoped for, but an icy grip that forced a gasp from both of them. They landed in another room, one dimly lit and infused with shadows that danced along the walls. "Where are we?" Jake murmured, glancing wildly around the unfamiliar space. The atmosphere felt heavy, as though the air itself dripped with dread. Maybe we're safe?" Emma ventured weakly, but even as she said it, she felt the falseness of her words. The stone walls were thick, ancient. A stench of mold seemed to rise from the very ground beneath them. "Look!" Jake pointed toward a large, cracked mirror hanging on the wall. Its surface shimmered like water, reflecting their fearful faces, not just what they were seeing, but distorted, grotesque shapes of themselves that twisted the fear they both felt. Emma's stomach churned. "It can't be real," she whispered, stepping closer. The reflection beckoned, whispering words she couldn't summon in her mind. Images flickered there, memories twisted into nightmares, their childhood in this very school, the friends they had lost, faces melting into screams. As Jake stepped beside Emma, the room began to shift, it wobbled like an unstable reality. The whispers surged again, but these were not alien entities. They were voices they recognized, familiar, accusing. "You should have known better. You can't escape your past." Emma's heart raced. "They know who we are," she breathed, feeling trapped in her own reflection. Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed from somewhere deeper within the room. It was a sound that carried centuries of torment. "You thought the light would save you?" A figure emerged from the shadows, its features obscured but its presence unmistakably filled with contempt. "Welcome to your end." Without warning, the mirror shattered, shards flying through the air like daggers, each piece a fragment of their guilt. Jake screamed, pulling Emma back, but it was too late. One shard grazed her arm, pain flaring up as a dizzying wave of memories surged through her mind, each image a reminder of loss, mistakes, and the darkness they had tried to escape. She stumbled, gasping as the world around her twisted, pulling her deep into that dark void. "Emma!" "No!" Jake's voice called out, but it was swallowed by the chaos of their surroundings. As the darkness closed in on her, she fought against it, desperation clawing at her mind. "Jake!" She screamed, the name echoing like a prayer in the void, and then, in the moment before everything fell completely dark, she caught a glimpse of a new doorway, a faint light flickering just beyond the shadows. Would it be their salvation? Or merely another illusion? The darkness seemed to cackle in answer, mocking them both. What awaited them if they chose to race toward that flicker? Would they break free from the cycle of torment or become trapped forever in its grip? The darkness receded, only slightly. Emma blinked, struggling to catch her breath as she lay on a cold wooden floor. The flickering light had transformed into a weak halo surrounding her, its warmth barely touching her skin. "Jake?" she croaked, panic jolting her to a sitting position. The faint illumination revealed empty corridors that stretched endlessly in both directions. The high ceilings arched menacingly above, cloaked in shadows that flickered like demons. "Emma!" His voice pierced through the stillness, drawing her attention down the hall to her left. She couldn't see him clearly, he was just a blur against the dim light. Her heart leapt as she scrambled to her feet, pain blooming in her arm from the shard's earlier kiss. "Where are you?" she shouted, her words echoing ominously. "Right here." He emerged from the shadows, his face pale and eyes wild with fear. "We have to get out of here before it comes back." "It?" Emma whispered, dread thickening the air. Jake nodded, his gaze darting over her shoulder as though the darkness itself had teeth. "The creature, it didn't follow us through the light, but I swear I felt it, lurking. Watching." "Then we can't hesitate," she said, locking eyes with him. They exchanged a knowing look, the moment stretched by the weight of what lay behind them. Together, they moved toward the flickering light, one step at a time, their footfalls echoing through the suffocating silence. The air grew thicker as they walked, every brush of wind making their skin crawl. Suddenly, a door to their right burst open, swinging wide with a creak that sent shivers down Emma's spine. The flickering light seemed to beckon from within the room. A strange, intoxicating scent wafted out, a sweet decay that lingered in her nose. "Should we go in?" she hesitated. "Better than standing here," Jake urged, pulling her toward the doorframe. They stepped inside, the warmth becoming a false embrace. The room was an old classroom, memories of childhood flooding back as the desks sat in disarray, abandoned remnants of laughter and lessons. Posters hung crooked on the walls, fading images of superheroes and educational slogans peeling away. "God, this place is creepy," Emma whispered. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry mosquitoes, adding to the dismal atmosphere. "Look!" Jake pointed to the chalkboard, covered in strange symbols that seemed to writhe as if alive. As he stepped forward to examine it, Emma felt an unsettling chill crawling up her spine. "Don't," she began, but it was too late. Jake's fingertips grazed the board, and the moment he touched it, the classroom trembled. The walls pulsated, and a low hum filled the air that vibrated in their bones. "Get away!" Emma shouted, reaching for him, but it was as if an invisible force held him captive against the board. His expression turned to one of pure terror. "Emma! I can't move." Panic raced through her veins, and she took a step closer. "Let him go." The hum intensified, morphing into a warped whispering that echoed all around them. Their names twisted into ragged breaths layered over one another, each more desperate than the last. "Emma, Jake, Emma." The air thickened, too heavy to breathe. Emma felt the classroom closing in, walls perishing her existence as shadows flickered into form, grotesque figures forming from the darkness, their hollow eyes locked onto her. "Leave him alone." The scream tore itself free from her throat as she lunged forward, grabbing Jake's other arm, pulling with every ounce of strength. A sudden snap, and he was free. They stumbled back as the darkness writhed at the edges of the room. "Run!" Jake shouted, his breath ragged and wild. They bolted from the room, the oppressive atmosphere chasing them like a beast bent on their destruction. As they raced down the hall, a chilling realization gripped Emma. "It's all connected, this school, our past, it wants us." Jake's eyes, usually so filled with a spark of light, seemed dimmer now, shadowed by fear. "We can't let it win. This has to be the way out." He pressed, urgency in his voice. But as they ran, the flickering light grew dimmer, the whispers louder, each word a ghostly hand tugging at their hearts. Then, just ahead, another flicker of light appeared, calling them like a siren in the night. Perhaps it was another trap. Or perhaps, their final chance for escape. "Emma! Look!" Jake pointed, but uncertainty rippled through her. What if they were running straight into the jaws of whatever hunted them? Would they dare to chase the flicker, or retreat into the darkness that craved their torment? The choice loomed before them, heavy and foreboding, each heartbeat echoing the whispers of their tortured past. As they teetered on the edge of decision, the air turned electric, almost crackling with danger, and the darkness roared for them to reveal their heart's deepest secret. Before either could speak, they charged toward the flickering light. Emma's heart raced, each beat drowning out the whispers that clawed at her sanity. With every step, shadows clawed at their backs, threatening to consume them. "Go!" Jake shouted, urging her as they burst into a large hall, suffused with an eerie glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. The walls, painted a faded yellow, flickered and warped, revealing faint impressions of hands and faces, echoes of past terror. "Do you see that?" Emma's voice trembled as they both halted. Ahead, an enormous window shimmered with an unnatural light, framed by unchecked vines that twisted like fingers trying to claw their way in. The whispers turned sharper, sharper than glass, each one trying to weave themselves into the fabric of her mind. "Emma, Jake, no." She clamped her hands to her ears, fighting the pull of the voices. "We have to focus. Look." Jake moved closer to the twisted roots strangling the frame, entranced by the glow. "What if it's real? What if it leads us back to the light?" "No." Emma frantically pulled him back. "We can't trust it. This place wants to play tricks on us." He hesitated, torn between desperation and a wretched temptation. "But it led us here, it might be the way out." Just then, a deafening crash erupted from behind them. The classroom door slammed shut with forceful intensity, shaking dust from the ceiling. "Run!" Emma screamed, pulling Jake into motion, their feet pounding against the floor as they raced toward the window. With each hurried step, the air tightened, filled with the metallic scent of blood, a haunting reminder of something ancient that had once transpired within those four walls. They reached the window, and Emma pressed her palms against the cold glass. The light outside beckoned like a distant memory. "We have to get through." But before they could think, the whispers returned with a vengeance indistinguishable and chaotic. They wrapped around Emma, pulling at her mind, wrapping like fingers around her throat, squeezing the breath from her lungs. "Jake! Hold on to me." Her voice cracked as panic ignited within her. Jake grasped her shoulders tightly, but the shadows surged, mysterious shapes forming from the depths of the hall. They grew taller, twisted limbs reaching out, faces appearing in the darkness, blank eyes gazing hungrily at them. "Stay close," he yelled, though fear laced his voice. The view of the swirling figures in the darkness made the light outside seem even farther away. Emma's breath quickened. "What do they want from us?" "Not what but who." His voice shivered. Just then, a deep growl tremored through the air, vibrating the floor beneath them. Emma's heart dropped. Something was in the dark, it had found them hiding, watching. "Move, Emma!" Jake screamed, pushing her toward the window, throwing the shadows off balance. The glass felt impossibly thick, locked by some sinister force. Desperation clawed at her. She threw her weight against it again and again, the glass refusing to give way. Suddenly, the ground shook, the shadows howled, and the darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. The grip of the past tightened, and she felt the weight of every secret this cursed place held. "What if we can't escape?" Jake whispered, fear spilling from his eyes. "Then we have to make it count." Emma yelled back, feeling her resolve lift. Just as whispers crescendoed to a deafening wail, the light burst brighter, pushing against the glass like a lover's embrace. Emma could almost feel it pulling her, urging her to break free. "Do you trust me?" Jake's voice pierced the chaos. "Always," she shouted, rallying every ounce of strength. They threw themselves against the glass at one, a crashing wave, determined to escape together. With a mighty crack, the glass shattered, and in that moment, light flooded in. They were falling, blinded, the darkness screaming in rage as they plummeted. Would they land in safety, or would the shadows pull them back into the void? The light encased them, bright and consuming, but was it truly salvation, or just another trap waiting to ensnare them? As they fell, the echoes of the hall faded, but one voice remained, a haunting whisper, merging with the blinding light, haunting them with one chilling question: will you face your pasts? They plummeted into the unknown, hearts racing, breathless at the brink of a new horror. The world around Emma and Jake exploded into chaotic brilliance, a dizzying fusion of shadows and light. They collided with ground that felt alarmingly solid. The fall abruptly halted. Breathless, they scrambled to their feet, blinking against the brilliance that flooded the cavernous space around them. Empty classrooms loomed around them, each one filled with an unsettling silence. Desks were tossed, papers strewn about as if an invisible storm had raged through. Emma felt the tension prickling at her skin. "Where are we?" she murmured, gazing at the unmade chaos. "Somewhere different, but it feels the same." Jake's voice wavered, an echo of uncertainty rippling through the air. As they stepped forward, the light dimmed. Shadows slithered along the edges of the room, writhing against the walls like snakes anticipating their prey. Did we really escape?" she questioned, the air thick with unspoken fears. "Maybe this is worse," Jake retorted, glancing warily at the windows. The outside world felt devoid of color. An oppressive fog choked the view, encapsulating them in a grim, cold haze. The chilling whispers returned, slithering through the cracks of their minds. "You can't hide from your past." Emma's heart raced. "We need to find a way out of here." "Yeah, but where do we go?" Jake replied as he stepped cautiously over a broken desk, the splinters sharp against his trembling hands. As they wandered deeper into the maze of rooms, the faint sound of laughter coated in malice echoed from a distant classroom. The sound curled around them, twisting with their fears. Emma exchanged a glance with Jake, the question in her eyes mirrored in his. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, edging toward the door labeled Art Room. No way. This isn't funny." But something deep inside Emma compelled her forward. She reached for the door handle, its cold metal biting into her palm, hesitation buzzing in the air as an electric charge. She pulled the door open, and the laughter morphed into agonized cries, echoing through the room. It felt like stepping into a horror film, terrifying yet thrilling. The art supplies lay scattered, paint tubes bursting like wounds upon the floor, but it wasn't the mess that caught their eyes. In the center of the room stood a figure, half-formed from shadows and debris, its eyes like empty pits that devoured the light. "Welcome back," it hissed, the voice slithering through them like ice. Who are you?" Emma stammered, dread creeping into her bones. The figure grinned, revealing a mouthful of jagged teeth, dripping with an essence neither could name. "I am what you left behind," it crooned, and the shadows swirled around it, reaching for them like tendrils. "You can't escape your history. It's in your blood." A surge of blood rushed through Emma's veins, and she felt the memories flooding back, flashes of childhood fears and long-buried hurt. Past traumas twisted into form, manifesting in the shadowy figure before them. "Run!" Jake's voice was filled with panic, and he pulled Emma back, dragging her into the hallway. The haunting cries chased them, the figure's laughter echoing like a deranged hymn. They sprinted down the corridor, the walls pulsating with erratic energy that felt almost alive. Doors slammed shut behind them, the sound echoing like a countdown through the Hall of Horrors. "Where do we go?" Emma shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. "Anywhere but here." But the air thickened with dread, the whispers now a cacophony that engulfed them, threatening, menacing. Somewhere deep inside, Emma understood. They were not just running from the shadows, they were running from themselves. As they turned a corner, a final door pulsed with the same eerie light they had seen before, only this time, it seemed to beckon with false hope. "Emma, let us break through," Jake urged as they rushed forward, a shared determination igniting their hearts, but with every step, the shadows surged back, rushing at them like a tidal wave. Would they breach the threshold into light, or would the darkness finally consume them for good? The light flickered, and the voice whispered again, now echoing in cruel delight, "You think you can run, but you'll never escape." They prepared for impact, hearts pounding, knowing that whatever lay beyond the door might not be what they hoped. Would they find a chance for redemption or confront the demons lurking in their past? The door swung open, and they collided with an overwhelming rush of blinding light. Emma gasped as they stumbled through, but the radiance felt wrong, sharp and searing, like white-hot metal. It enveloped them, pulling at their skin, and for a moment, she couldn't tell where the light ended, and the shadows began. With a violent shove, they were thrown into the new space. The bright room morphed quickly, swallowing them in a pulse of darkness so sudden it took Emma's breath away. The room was now a decrepit hallway, the walls peeling and cracked, stained with the remnants of long-forgotten anguish. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered unpredictably, casting monstrous shapes that danced in the corners of Emma's vision. "Are we still in the same place?" Jake whispered, scanning the corridor. "It feels like we shifted into another nightmare," Emma said, forcing her legs forward, each step heavy with dread. The whispers escalated into grotesque laughter, echoing from the dismal recesses of the hall. Emma froze, blood running cold as a face peeked around the corner. A childlike figure, its features a grotesque mockery of innocence, grinned at them with eyes that shone with pure malice. "Wanna play?" it taunted, voice lilting with an unnerving cheerfulness. "No!" Jake yelled, grasping Emma's arm, propelling them both down the hall. The laughter followed, wrapping around them like a cold noose. "What do they want?" Emma shouted, panic spilling from her voice. "They want us to remember." Jake replied, his breath quickening. It's like they're feeding on our fears. The air thickened as they rushed past classroom doors that swung open with every step, revealing visions of their past, their worst mistakes, their most painful memories. Faces of classmates long gone flickered in and out, their expressions twisted in anguish, echoing the pain that had once haunted Emma's mind. She stumbled forward, holding on to Jake. We can't stop. We have to find a way out. Look. Jake halted, pointing towards a door at the end of the hall, an ominous black entity that seemed to suck the light from the world around it. Without a second thought, they charged toward the door, the laughter intensifying to a maddening crescendo. Shadows whipped around their ankles, clawing at their legs as if trying to drag them back into the madness. Faster. Emma urged, the weight of despair pushing against her chest. Just as they reached out for the door handle, a shadowy figure lunged from a side room, blocking their escape. It loomed tall and gaunt, vacant eyes fixed on them, dripping tendrils trailed from its mouth. Not so fast, it rasped, voice a chilling whisper. The air grew frigid, and Emma felt a wave of hopelessness wash over her. The shadows began to close in, a thick, suffocating tide. Their weight pressed down on her, memories swirling like a storm. Emma recalled every classroom laugh, every moment of joy turned to shadow. Why were they being punished for simply existing? Jake, she stammered, despair clawing at her throat. On 3. He yelled suddenly, determination igniting in his eyes. 1, 2, 3. They lunged for the door together, desperation fueling their movements. Bursting through the door, they felt a rush of wind, hope trickling into their hearts, but it was short-lived. The scene shifted again. A vast, dark expanse stretched before them, blank and barren. Faint outlines of familiar locations formed, whispering promises of return. Where are we? Emma's voice trembled, the tension in her chest still rising. What the hell is this place? Jake breathed, sensing the danger. The chilling laughter returned, now overlapping with whispers that echoed faintly from distant corners, a mix of their fears, their regrets, circling back like vultures waiting for a long-awaited feeding. Then, with explosive wrath, the shadows converged upon them, and darkness swallowed everything whole, leaving only the sound of their frantic heartbeat echoing in their ears. Just as despair seemed inevitable, a sudden clarity jolted through Emma. Something was hidden in this darkness. Something they needed to confront. Could they navigate this ultimate nightmare and confront the memories seeking to consume them, or were they trapped beneath layers of shadow forever? With every heartbeat, the truth waited. Would they have the courage to face what lay in wait? The darkness roared, but Emma felt a flickering light inside her ignite. With every heartbeat, she remembered the laughter, the joy, the moments long lost, buried beneath the weight of shadows. We can't hide anymore, Jake. She declared, conviction rising in her voice, cutting through the enveloping dread. We have to confront them. Jake's eyes widened, filled with fear and determination. What if it destroys us? But beneath his hesitation lurked a burgeoning bravery, a spark that mirrored Emma's. We've already lost so much, she urged, her throat tight. Whatever this is, it wants us to face it. We have to see what it's been hiding from us. As if sensing their resolve, the shadows stilled for a brief moment, curling back like waves receding from the shore. Emma yanked Jake's hand, pulling him forward into the void where the laughter echoed not mockingly, but invitingly. They pressed onward, emerging in a circular chamber lined with mirrors, reflecting bits of their memories, casting distorted images of how they truly felt, chaos, fear, regret, and moments of light intertwined. Look! Jake pointed to a mirror reflecting laughter, an old clip of their classmates at a birthday party, the same one Emma had buried deep in her heart, filled with joy but overshadowed by later heartbreak. We need to face this, not run. Emma stepped closer, the warmth of her childhood enveloping her like sunlight breaking through clouds. She inhaled deeply, calling forth every hidden memory, letting the echoes wash over her. You're just shadows of what we used to be. She proclaimed, her voice rising to a crescendo. The laughter grew louder, not as an attack, but as a release. The figures in the mirrors began to morph, shifting from sorrowful forms to radiant versions of themselves. It was as if the light of their true selves could break free if only they embraced it. "Remember," Jake shouted, eyes glistening with tears. "Our victories, our friendships, the times we dared to laugh. Exactly. This darkness can't keep us," Emma added, taking a step forward, feeling larger, stronger, and unyielding. Emotions flooded back: friendship, bravery, guilt, but they all twisted and merged into something powerful. They were no longer victims, they were survivors. As they focused their intentions on the mirrors, the shadows screeched, swirling violently, multiple voices rising in the chaos. "You can't escape your shadows." "Oh, but we can," Emma shouted, her voice loud and proud, echoing around the chamber. "You've haunted us long enough." In that moment of clarity, the mirrors shattered, each piece reflecting a radiant light. The walls trembled, the darkness began to peel away, revealing vibrant hues beneath. Together, they yelled, gripping hands tighter than ever. They flung themselves into the mirror's remnants, soaking in the light from all their shared moments. Tears streamed as they relived precious instances, battling the shadows that threatened to overpower them. "I forgive you and myself," Emma cried out, a torrent of truth spilling from her core. "And I will not let the past dictate my future." Jake echoed, his voice unwavering. The cacophony of whispers turned into a tidal wave of peace as the shadows wailed in desperation. They weren't just battling memories, they were regaining control over their own narratives. With a deafening burst, the last pieces of the shadows were washed away, like darkness evaporating under the morning sun. They found themselves standing hand in hand, atop what felt like solid ground, warmth traveling through their bodies, overtaking the lingering chill. "We did it," Emma whispered, breathlessly looking around. The void had transformed into a sunlit garden, vibrant and alive. Flowers bloomed in colors they'd never seen before. Laughter danced in the breeze, almost surreal but too sweet to dismiss. "We're free," Jake smiled, a joy that lit his eyes, contagious as he wrapped an arm around Emma's shoulders. "We faced it." As they walked forward, the warmth wrapped around them, filled with hope and sunshine. They exchanged glances filled with unspoken promises, gratitude pulsing in their hearts for what had been endured. Together, they took a step into their newfound freedom, leaving the darkness behind them no longer as half of who they once were, but as whole beings, strengthened by every piece of themselves they had embraced. The past may echo softly in their hearts, but it would never chain them again. With each stride through the garden, sunlight danced off their faces, illuminating the path that lay ahead. "Let this be our new beginning," Emma said, the promise resonating in the air around them. Together, Jake agreed with unwavering confidence, and as they walked on, hand in hand, a renewed sense of purpose radiating from them, they knew this was not just about the end of a school year, it was about the beginning of everything else. What lay ahead was a horizon painted with possibilities, and they were finally ready to seize them. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will chill and thrill the soul. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories coming stronger than ever. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the adventure.